I've refilled my water, I've had a little snack, I've gotten my fiber ready to go. So we're going to do this all again. And those who just watch me, um, tell everybody that I didn't sleep in my clothes, and this is the same day, and I'm actually doing my very first back to back stream. But I have a reason. I really like to upload these to YouTube on my teaching days so that spinners can find it on YouTube. And I want to keep the information for each breed separate so that if they want the information on the Dorset Down, which I just did, I don't want to tack on the Hill Radnor breed, which is what I'm going to do now. I want it all to have its own. So that's why I am back, and I'm going to be doing exactly what I did for the last hour with a different breed. It just won't look much different because, as you can see, it's just a pile of white wool. So, unfortunately, it is. This I thought I would show you. The other one I had sort of opened up and worked, but this is how I get it. It was in a plastic bag, and it reminds me of something that you pull out of a stuffed pillow, right? It really does. It looks like stuffing. This feels a little coarser. This actually has bits of hay in it. The other fiber was a little cleaner. This is from the same source of fiber, but that's only because she has a store on Etsy and she sells lots and lots of different British breeds. I am doing this breed for the 52 weeks of sheep. I'm almost done. I have 2 more of these small bits, and so I'm going to be doing those next Thursday if I can learn how to pronounce their names. They're Welsh. So unfortunately, they're a little difficult to pronounce. But when I get something like this and kind of open it up, of course, I start pulling out anything I don't want in there. But I also start looking for specific locks. I want something that is all connected together, doesn't have a whole bunch attached to it. And when I pull it, now I can almost pull this apart. So that's not a true staple length on that lock. I'm not going to because it's pretty nicely attached. When I have something like this, none of that is a lock. Well, I spoke too soon. There's a lock right there. My first diagnosis of this breed is that it has pretty long locks if you can find them intact. Okay, but they're not wanting to really stay together. And I also see that at the base of both of these locks, there's little bits. And I'm going to put those little bits in the non-lock. I have to save some of this. And what I'm going to do is make sure I do that right away or I forget. Now these are better locks. So when looking at this as a lock, of course you have your pointed tips right here. And you have a real broad end down here, which is next to the sheep's body, and that's what got cut. All right, so you can see on this lock that, oh, I put that right in that sunbeam. You got little tips, and then it gets wider and wider and wider. All right. I forgot to talk to you about the Hill Radnor breed. I need to back up here a bit. Got ahead of myself. Let's do this. The Hill Radnor is a British breed. We don't have them here in the United States. They are very, very old breed, and they are considered pretty rare. They're from a specific area in Wales. Now, I was intrigued by the name because I lived long ago, back in the 70s, in a town called Radnor. that was my address. And so I thought, well, this is interesting. Here's another Radnor. And I decided that I would look up what Radnor means and what the oldest usage of it was. Well, it was from the sheep breed. And it was related to, and I'm going to look at my notes here, in the mid 19th century, a region in the Central Powys, Powys, which is actually east of Wales. Okay, so it's not exactly a Welsh breed, but it was a really tiny little area, and it was originally known as Radnorshire. And then it got shortened to Radnor as far as the breed. But what happened was they had their sheep. And just like I said about all of these old sheep, and I've said before, it's what your grandpa and great-grandpa and great-great-grandpa had. I mean, the families just had these sheep that have been there forever, and the farming went on, and the sheep lineage went on, and that was very specific to the area. They didn't have the travel to go get another breed to breed in with it. They just kept breeding with what they had. And it was not shipped out of there. They didn't market it. That just kept it very local. And so it became known eventually when they finally got around to labeling sheep breeds and listing them in registries and that sort of thing, taking a standard that was going to talk about what that breed of sheep should be from Radnor and that area, and putting that in the standard, and then they decide to name it the Radnor Hill sheep. The sheep belong to what is known as the mountain breeds. They are pastured on pretty rough terrain. They have limited grazing. They have to withstand the elements, and so a lot of times the mountain sheep breed have a pretty coarse coat. And you have, if you're a spinner, you may have run into things that almost feel like rough hair on a sheep, and the mountain sheeps usually have a longer lock and a very rough outer coat and sometimes an undercoat. In this particular breed, the breed didn't really develop into the dual coat, and it kept its softness. It is a moderately soft, very usable wool, and so it was probably bred that way. They said, "Oh, I really like the, when Grandma spun the fleece from the lamb that was just born, this is really nice. Give me that fleece next time, and they kept that one and bred that one, and you just kept getting wool that spinners, whoever was spinning for the household, really liked. And so they developed a breed of sheep that has a moderately soft, generally described as crisp wool. That means you're going to be able to wear it as a hat, maybe wear it with something under it as a sweater. It's going to be very sturdy. It's going to wear well. If you can tolerate socks, they're going to be as warm as dickens. They're going to be wonderful for all the attributes that wool is wonderful for. On the other hand, if it's a scratch factor an itchy factor is a problem for you with wool, this one will fall down into, no, you're probably not going to want to wear it, especially around your neck, maybe not on your hands or feet. So it is moderately soft. So that is where the Hill Radnor came from. It is an area close to Wales. It is only a British sheep, and it is extremely rare. Now, let's go back to the fiber. And I'll get rolling here. So I'm going to save this little bit for my sample, and I'll start taking this apart. I can tell that this is rougher than most of the wools that I have been working with, and it has very, very few intact locks. Now what that means is I can still spin some for top, but I probably am not going to like the yarn that I make with the top, because it's going to feel pretty rough. It's not going to have any real softness to it. All I'm doing right now is looking for intact locks and opening up anything, looking for the vegetable matter. There is more in this than I generally have. It's a very small sample. It's washed. There's no stickiness to it. There's no lanolin left over. I have no idea, since it came to me already washed, whether it's going to be a high lanolin fleece or not, to be honest with you, because it's already washed and I can't tell. And they didn't address that in the little bit of information that I read about it. One of the things they said that this type of wool is excellent for is color work. You know, your traditional Fair Isle. I am currently knitting a Fair Isle Christmas stocking, you know, where you have the design coming out, and the color work can be, you know, if you get a good crisp wool, color work can be really stunning. I have some shortcuts in here that I'm pulling out, but I am not finding intact locks at all. Not really. Here's some right here. This is probably the best of what I'm going to find. The tips tend to be yellow, and it really is pretty long. Even though it kind of wants to come apart, that is looking like it might be 8 inches. Nope. Oh, you know, women can't measure. It's 5 inches. Your average is, you know, around 3-4 inches for an average staple length. All right, so here we go. So what this means is I'm not going to really have anything that I would lock spin from, given the nature of the fleece this way. If I got a whole bunch of it, it would look like this, and it looked like this. I would not try and lock spin. I would just go ahead and use either the picked open fiber with the combs or cards, but not try to actually spin directly from the lock. There is not too much crimp in this. Crimp is where you can see the waves, and this one has very little crimp. What that means is it's not going to be a bouncy yarn. The more crimp, the more bounce. And when you have a bouncy yarn, you have more bounce when you knit with it, right? It spans out, and when you have less crimp and you have less bounce, you have what you call a crimp yarn. So, I mean, you have what you call a crisp yarn. It was a C word anyway. So anyway, this, now I'm feeling some oil, just a little bit. So that is different, because that means it didn't quite get all the lanolin out of there. Must have a fair amount of lanolin, and I would expect that if they're out in the weather, you know, that they're going to have that protection of the water going under their coat. Someday I will be doing a breed study that has really good locks, and I'll demonstrate what it means to lock spin. But this is not going to qualify for it. I have just these few locks, and I'm not going to use them for top. I'm just going to save them. Okay, it's a nice pile of fiber, and yes, it is sticky. That the Dorset horn that I just did was not that sticky. Oh, and another thing about this breed that makes it distinctive is they have a very distinctive tan face. And since they have some coloration on their face, they have the possibility of that coloration going into their body in little hairs that are not white. And so you can get fleeces that are almost tweedy looking when they spin up, because you're going to get those hairs that are tan color or maybe a little darker mixed in with the white wool. Now I don't see that here on this, and it could be, I mean, every animal is going to be different, but it is a distinction of the breed that makes it possible to run into if you happen to get a sheep, Hill Radnor sheep fleece that has that coloration in it. I'm going to do the combing here, and I'm going to load these combs with the fiber. Am I on the camera? I moved things a little bit. I may need to move my table here a little bit, so it's more of the camera. I don't know. We'll see. I'll try and stay in the camera. All right. Combing is like combing your hair. Just gonna pull it out. Oh, these little sharp tines go right through there. They straighten the fiber, put it on the other one. You can see it disappearing there. They leave all the stuff you don't want in there back behind. Go back and forth. And when you can't get any more, you just throw this away, because that's all the stuff you don't want in your yarn. To get what we want to spin, you pull it off of here. This does not pull as easy. It's wanting to do short bursts. It's not pulling all connected. It is coming off straight, but it's not really wanting to come off the comb very easily. And it left a lot. You always lose a lot with combing. To be honest with you, I think that 6 inches is deceptive. I do not think the lock is all that long. Or I have a sample that has what they call a break in the lock, and it wants to come apart part way down. Because I have an awful lot of fiber that is just very, maybe 3 inches like this. And that's when that happens, that's why it doesn't pull off of the comb very well. And it doesn't all transfer off of because the stuff behind is holding it in place. just go back and forth. So you get as much as you can off of the one comb. Sometimes when I'm working with a lot of fleece, I'm trying to get a lot of yarn, I will put some of this into the bat for carding. It really isn't worth it though, because you are going to get lumps off of that. Now to help the pull off, I spread that fiber out as much as possible. That helps a little bit. And as you can see, I'm just kind of cupping all it. Well, see, it broke. That's what happens when that did not happen. That doesn't always happen. It has to do with the fiber. And it's something that I will document in my notes for the breed study, that it's not real fond of being combed, because it will come off in what I say in my notes as short bursts. Of course, I know what that means. It means it doesn't pull off in a really nice smooth top. This is also something that you run into if you do comb a fiber that is not in good locks, because you have so many multiple lengths going onto this comb, and the multiple lengths are what are coming off at different pulls. When you pull the different ones, that's what's happening. So that's why I'm running into this, because this is not really in a good intact lock where they're all the same length. Tried putting not quite as much on the comb. I get impatient and want to get it done. There is a little stickiness with the comb going through it too. From that lanolin stickiness that I felt. I would not rewash it though till after it's yarn. I'd always wash yarn anyway, but it's not going to affect my spinning. But if it was something that you didn't like the way that felt, you could just rewash it before you process it. It's a lot of waste, but it's not going to be a nice worsted yarn with that in there. Lost some. Well, at least with that tiny bit of lanolin in there, that's not staticky. Because today is very cold and dry. Okay. I am so happy to be working on these breed studies. I am so close to being done with the 52 weeks. And I mean, considering I have been working on it all year, that's exciting. I have done so much this year. So much spinning. Now, sometimes you figure it might be easier just to pull off of both of them. So I'm going to show you that. I got just a little bit less on this one, but you're going to get a shorter pull, shorter top, not as much. Yep. I seem to get 4 tugs and that's it. I can coax a little more though. It'll be thinner than the other top, but that's about all I can coax off there. All of this really short stuff that I'm talking about, that's actually probably this part, this little bit right here, that when I take this staple and I tug like this, I can feel this giving, right? So either I have a break right there, or that's just the way the fleece releases, and the true lock is a lot shorter. Last one. And we put the pointy things away because I keep hitting my finger. I'm just destined to draw blood here. All right, I'm not going to try and pull off of this one. Well, let me go the second way though. I don't know if I did that for the other one. Can't remember. All right. By the way, that little bit of lanolin is kind of good for the combs. Gives it just a little bit of protection against humidity. I don't bother to oil them because, one, I think they're stainless steel. They shouldn't need it, but it does help. But this really just doesn't want to pull off in anything but little bits. I'm trying to get way too much out of this. Can't. All right. My hands are getting stickier the more I work here. That was deceptive. It did not feel sticky when I first started working with this. Let's see what we have here and divide this up. I'm not sure this is going to come out even. Oh well. sales card. Ah. Oh, the sound of industry. I'm working here. Now since this is a crisper yarn, I am choosing to make this more of a traditional roll log where you actually compact it some. So that's what I'm doing there. And I know you can ask me, how do you know? And I don't know for sure. It's kind of an instinct that I'm going to experiment with and try. In other words, if I try to spin that, compact it, and I find that it's harder to spin, I can draft out more, but I also can make that in my notes and say, that didn't work, don't do that again. You know, it doesn't matter to me that the yarn may not be perfect that I get when I'm doing these breed studies. And I keep repeating that, but it's so important to know that there's learning in spinning. It isn't all about making that perfect skein of yarn as soon as you start spinning. It's nice to get one, but there is so much that is different about every single fiber that you really almost can't expect to get something perfect every single time. And that's my yarn spinner's tales for today, my thoughts, because there have been so many fibers gone through my hands and so many successes and failures that, I don't expect a perfect skein of yarn now, even after all these years of spinning. I will have follow-up to do after I get these done. I will knit samples out of the 2-ply yarn that I create. I will put sample of the knitted squares and a little butterfly of the 2-ply, as well as some of that fiber that I saved in what are actually photo plastic sheets with everything labeled. I will print off what the 52 Weeks of Sheep has on their Facebook page for this breed of sheep and include that. If I have already studied this before, and some breeds I have, I will include that, put them together. And that's what I do to make my what I call a breed file. And it's all about, first of all, telling other people about it, both here and on my podcast. And second of all, it's about knowing if I run into a fleece, what to do with it, how to handle it. I don't have to guess on the whole fleece. I can look up some of my notes and get a good head start on it. This is work. This will keep me warm in these cold winter days. Of course, I have the warmest room in the house. I'm a cat. I'm allowed. Hubby has to wear a hat in the house because he's chilly, but I got the warmest room. Poor hubby. Oh, I'm so mean. Just a cat. I'm picky. I'm a hothouse flower. Okay. Look at that. We are ready to spin. Yay. So a little more than a half hour prep time. You can see prepping is definitely a big part of what kind of yarn you're going to get. And it takes time. It takes time. Washing, if you need, wash it. That's why, your dyed rovings, that's why it costs it. That's why it costs. Because you're paying for all that work. Okay, let me put this. Oh, I just dropped my sign. It's gone for good. And what do we do first? Let's do the row logs first. I just am losing my... Hold on here. I'm losing my tablecloth. The whole thing. There we go. I don't know what brought that on. Okay. Now, where is my camera? Right there. Back to the electric spinner here. Just like anything electric, there's no treadle. It turns on and off with a switch. There is a speed dial where you can turn it faster or slower, and there is a forward or backward so that you can either spin or ply. It is direct bobbin driven. The bobbin here is directly connected to the motor, so it's called a bobbin driven spinning wheel. And I'm probably going to have a little bit of a rattle here. All right. Still too fast. All right, compacting this a little bit, I actually can do a true woolen spinning, which means I am not pinching here anywhere and stopping the twist. The twist runs all the way from the bobbin to the fiber supply. And you can see me being hesitant because I don't, it can break for me in a heartbeat. I do need just a tad more speed. The speed increases the twist a little bit, and it also increases the pull in. Now, true long draw goes way back, but I don't like doing the true long draw. I just like having it right pretty much at my waist, but the idea is still the same. You don't pinch anywhere on this, and you just keep pulling. And this is ideal. This fiber is ideal for this kind of spinning. I love it. Unlike others that I've tried where I get thick and thin, this is spinning so smoothly. And not too thick. Now I'm at the end here, so in order to join and all of that, I'm going to finish up with a traditional pinch pull inchworm, and I'm going to do one more. I'll attach one more of these row logs and get going. And once I get going, just pull back. Let the twist travel all the way down, thin out the thicker areas. Second row log isn't doing quite as well. It's alright, but it's getting some thicker areas. But that's alright. I'm excited that it's worked pretty good. So this is true woolen spinning. True, it's not long draw because I don't go all the way back, but it's the same concept. What makes it woolen spinning is that you do not pinch there at all. You just lay it over your hand and pull back and spin. And yes, it is touching the bottom of my hand, but the twist is not impeded until I actually pinch between two fingers. That's when you actually impede the twist from going all the way to the fiber supply. If you do that, then you don't have woolen spinning. Capiche? Alright, second bobbin, so we can make a two-ply. Also, I need to check, oh, it's okay. I think it's got enough oil. Okay, second bobbin. Hopefully this will work too. I always get it started with a pinch, but pretty quickly can go to pulling back against my hand, but not pinching or stopping that twist. And the fiber in my left hand is getting rolled just a little bit to present more, drafted out pretty even. But you depend on that twist running all the way down here to the fiber supply to make it nice and even. I got a slub there. Got another one coming. I'm gonna take that one off. That's just a whole bunch of shortcut stuff. Now you can see this. This is fuzzier. You probably can't see, but the yarn is definitely fuzzier spinning it this way. It's going to be fuzzy also as you knit with it. And it should be pretty warm. I mean, trap air and be nice, bouncy. Well, it may not be bouncy because this doesn't have a lot of crimp. It should just be a very good wool for warmth because it traps air in it. And that's the end of this. So I almost forgot. I need to get another one. I need to change my thing there. Get it good and attached and then just start pulling. Kind of magic. Kind of like magic. But I had no idea this wool would spin this way. I just didn't know. So the fact that I did those roll logs helped it a little bit. On the other hand, it wasn't that I picked doing that just because I thought, oh, I'll be able to spin true woolen. It was the crispness of the bat made me feel like the roll log would hold together better if it was compacted a little bit. And that's just experience. Now I am running into where it doesn't want to do that anymore. It probably isn't as connected. I probably can get it a little bit more. But it is not something you can do all the way to the end of the fiber supply. At least I can't. I run into wanting to control how it ends. Almost, really, almost. Plus, I always get these little, everybody gets them. All of those little shortcuts travel to the end of the fiber. They're always there. Even in the best prep. Oh, that was good. Is that a blooper? All right. Let's get this back on here. Okay. Now we're going to apply this. Switch my wheel so it goes the other way. Increase the pull in. And the speed. Gonna be a fuzzy yarn. I should have gone ahead and gotten my nitty-knotty. I'll just use my elbow. It's balanced. I'm not even getting, it's probably a little bit under twisted. I'm not getting any pigtails at all, so it's probably under twisted. Put a little speed on it. Wow. All right. My leader's white, so I almost spun it into the white fiber. I'm here to tell you, I really judged that close and good. How about that? I probably can use that for a tie. All right. I like this yarn. Not as soft as I would like it to be. I mean, as far as what I use. Definitely not, would not put it next to my skin. But sure is pretty. It is, as I could probably say, really good for color work, depending on where you make the color work. And of course, I do a lot of Christmas stockings. This is a perfect yarn for hand knit, hand spun, hand knit Christmas items, or toys or whatever that you want to make out of a wool. Let's check this wraps per inch, and then I'll need to make some notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, 11 wraps per inch. My standard yarn. Almost all my standard, don't think about it, spinning comes out to 11 wraps per inch. So we have, I'll make some notes here in my notebook. We have no intact locks found. So used fiber for combs. The carded very easily. Made spun woolen draw back perfectly. 11 reps per inch. 2 2-ply. And it's quartz. Alright, I'm going to skein this off. I rolled the other one in a ball and I wasn't real happy with that. Although I have to roll this into a ball. It doesn't look real good on the screen. I will have to roll this into a ball to knit with. Okay, come off there. I guess I'll cut it. Yep, got a little extra twist there. That's pretty. That's pretty yarn. Says someone who only really likes true wool, no color, whatever. I'm just such a purist. Okay, Hill Radnor, carded, woolen spun, 11 reps per inch, 2-ply. Now I'll spin this little bit of top. Oh, there's so little of this. Okay. Now, worsted spun is a pinch and pull, and it's what the vast majority of spinners learn. It has, of course, the most control. You can draft it out as thin as you want. In fact, new spinners always say, well, I can't spin thick, and that's because they're so used to the massive control that you put over your top or any fiber, even roving, where you pinch and pull. You're controlling how much fiber goes into that drafting zone, and as long as you keep it to what you keep consistently pulling thinner and thinner, then you're going to spin thin. Sometimes spinning thicker requires a different prep, and most of the time it just requires letting go of the pinch and putting more fiber into your actual twist. And then you'll spin thicker. I'm going to give this a little oil. I think it's starting to say, I've been really busy today. I'm thirsty. This high speed and metal on metal is definitely going to create some friction and heat. Even this pulling and pinching and pulling and straightening it all out and spinning worsted makes this fiber still wants to be fuzzy. Fuzzy little sheep. It's not going to be because I have put so much of that into the, forced it into the twist that it really isn't going to pop out, but it probably will relax in its reps per inch like the other breed did. Because those fuzzy fibers are pushing on that twist and kind of opening it up a little bit. Oh, I'm done with this. This is it. I have to go to the other bobbin. Oh, that's so little. I didn't even have to change hooks. I think most of it's the leader. Okay, let's see here. It's not quite as fun to spin a coarser fiber this tight. I mean, you really can feel the roughness. It's way more fun to do that woolen spinning. That felt like magic. This just kind of feels like forcing it. Sorry, I am over the music. after this being the second stream, I am just done with it. So that's fine. also think I'm getting a lot more twist in this than I need to go down a little bit. It's funny that changing the bobbin actually does affect, the setting. The bobbins really are not consistent. They're relatively the same weight, but I'm sure being handmade or whatever, they're going to have variations. Last bit. I don't know. I'll put more on the one than the other. I did really good the whole time, but this one may not have come out right. All right. I keep saying that. I think I'm ready to be done. I know I'm ready for another cup of coffee. I've been drinking water, and I want some coffee. Water's good for you. Almost forgot to switch it. When you spin this and it's under tension, it definitely looks thinner. How much it'll relax, I don't know. It is definitely rough on my hand. Coming up down here where I have it, coming from the two bobbins, it's definitely rough. Which just goes back to the fact that it is one of those mountain breeds. Their coat is definitely bred, they definitely keep their coats to protect the animals. That's the genetic that gets passed on, right? The ones that don't have it don't survive. So, it's just going to be that way because it is a mountain breed. Do I have enough to do this? maybe. Who says you can't do things with a tangle of yarn on your hands? I'm going to definitely get a thick area on that join. So, I don't really have, can really, there, see, it does look different. This does look different. This is your carded, this is your combed. So this one definitely has a difference, and I think it has to do with the nature of the fleece, what they, where they say that crispness, it tends to want to stay in whatever part, whatever you put it into, which is why it would knit up good too, because it'll stay in what you put it in. The stitch definition will be good. I don't even, it's not even over twisted. Oh, wait, that's not on the, all right. That's carded, that has my hair in it. That's combed. That is a definite difference. I know that you probably can't see it that well, but between this and this, you can definitely see. Now, I forgot to count my wraps per inch before I tie this up. Let me do that, since it's going to behave so well. Really have it tied up. I'm going to end up tangling this. Terrible. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oops. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Really 14 wraps per inch for the combed. That concludes the breed review for Hill Radnor, and I really appreciate you watching this. I am sure that people will on either Twitch or eventually YouTube. I hope that it has been informative for you, and I have really enjoyed sharing my information with you. I will be back to live stream this coming Sunday. It's at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, U.S. time. I hope you can join me. We don't do the teaching then. It's all about just spinning something I want to spin for fun and chatting. So, until later, happy spinning.